As we gather here today, I want to invite you on a journey not just through events, but through the very essence of human resilience. We often hear stories of triumph, of battles won, but what about the silent wars fought within, against forces that seem insurmountable? Tonight we delve into one such profound narrative. It's a story that asks us to look beyond the headlines, to question the very foundations of what we believe about justice and truth. This isn't just about a man, a crime, or a court case. It's about the relentless pursuit of light in the darkest of shadows. Prepare to have your perceptions challenged, your emotions stirred, and your understanding of the human spirit deepened, because sometimes the quietest battles leave the loudest echoes. In the heart of Greenwood, Georgia, nestled amongst rolling hills and whispering pines, lived Caleb Brooks. He was the kind of man who built his life brick by painstaking brick, not with grand blueprints, but with the honest sweat of his brow. You could find him most days hands greasy, but a genuine smile on his face at the local garage. He had a knack for bringing old engines back to life, a touch that felt almost magical. His dreams weren't etched in towering ambitions. They were painted in the laughter of his young daughter Maya and the quiet, unwavering strength of his wife Sarah. Their modest home filled with the aroma of Sarah's cooking, and the sound of Maya's tiny footsteps was Caleb's entire world. He was a pillar of his community, the kind of man neighbors trusted with their last dime or their deepest secret. Life moved at a comfortable rhythm in Greenwood, a gentle hum of everyday joys, shared aspirations, and the simple belief that hard work led to a good life. But that rhythm, so steady and true, was about to be violently ripped apart. One sweltering summer night, a chilling call shattered the peace of Greenwood. The corner grocer, a beloved institution where generations had bought their milk-shared gossip and found a moment of respite, became a scene of unspeakable horror. A brutal robbery had turned deadly, leaving 3 innocent lives tragically extinguished. The shockwaves that tore through Greenwood were immediate and profound. A cold, hard knot of fear gripped every resident, twisting their stomachs with a dread they'd never known. The collective grief was palpable, almost suffocating, and in the vacuum of such terror, there's often a desperate, almost primal need for answers, for someone to blame. And sometimes that desperate need blinds us to the truth. The pressure on local law enforcement was immense, palpable. The community, shattered and terrified, demanded swift justice. Every news outlet blared the story, fueling the public's hunger for an arrest. Enter Chief Investigator Thomas Vance, a man whose career was built on closing cases quickly, and D.A. Reginald Reggie Stone, a prosecutor whose political star was rapidly ascending, propelled by a string of high-profile convictions. In my view, the need to solve this case, to deliver a culprit to a grieving public, seemed to overshadow the painstaking, meticulous process of true due diligence. This, I believe, is where the insidious nature of confirmation bias often creeps into investigations. Under intense public pressure, there's a dangerous tendency to latch onto the easiest or most visible suspect to make the existing evidence fit a preconceived narrative, rather than letting the evidence lead you without prejudice to the undeniable truth. And in Caleb's case, it was this very desperation, this rush to satisfy a traumatized public, that set the stage for a profound and agonizing injustice. Just days after the tragedy, the unthinkable happened. Caleb Brooks, the mechanic everyone knew and trusted, was being led away in handcuffs. His face wasn't contorted by guilt, but etched with stunned confusion, a bewildered innocence that to me should have screamed louder than any accusation. His mother, Brenda Brooks, a woman whose spirit usually rivaled an oak tree, rushed forward, her face a mask of disbelief and raw anguish. "Caleb, no! What are you doing?" she cried out, her voice tearing through the night air, raw with a pain that promised to last a lifetime. "He wouldn't hurt a fly. You've got the wrong man." Her trembling hands reached out as if to pull him back from an abyss that only a mother could see. The initial basis for his arrest, a shaky eyewitness identification from a traumatized individual made under duress and in the chaotic aftermath of terror. Coupled with it a whispered tip from a desperate informant coerced into painting a false picture. This initial rush to judgment, fueled by community fear, is in my opinion a recurring and tragic flaw in our justice system. It's a stark reminder of how quickly the pursuit of a suspect can tragically overshadow the exhaustive, unbiased search for the truth. For Caleb Brooks, a man whose life was about to be irrevocably altered, that long, suffocating shadow had just begun its descent. And as we'll soon see, the deeper layers of this injustice were only just beginning to unfold within the very halls of power. The courthouse in Greenwood, usually a symbol of order and justice, transformed into a crucible of chaos and fear for Caleb. From the moment the gavel struck, it became clear this wasn't just about truth. It was about victory for the prosecution. The initial trial, meant to establish facts, quickly devolved into a strategic battle orchestrated by D.A. Stone. He was a master of his craft, known for his persuasive rhetoric and an almost uncanny ability to sway a jury. But beneath the polished facade, a more insidious tactic was at play. We learned over time that D.A. Stone meticulously and systematically used his peremptory challenges, seemingly innocent rights to dismiss potential jurors, to exclude black individuals from Caleb's jury. On paper, his reasons were always race-neutral, a vague reference to demeanor or body language. But in reality, it was a subtle yet devastating act of racial bias designed to ensure a favorable outcome for the prosecution. This, to me, is one of the most chilling aspects of the case, the exploitation of legal procedures to undermine the very principle of a fair and impartial jury, especially when so much was at stake. The prosecution's case against Caleb was built on a foundation of sand. Despite the horrific nature of the crime, there was a glaring, almost criminal lack of physical evidence connecting Caleb Brooks to the scene. Investigators scoured the corner grocer for fingerprints, but none matched Caleb's. They searched for a murder weapon, but it had vanished as if swallowed by the night. No DNA evidence, no clear, uncompromised witness. The entire edifice of their argument rested precariously on eyewitness testimonies, and tragically many of these witnesses later recanted their statements. Imagine for a moment being a terrified citizen traumatized by a horrific crime, then being isolated, interrogated, and subtly pressured by a figure of authority like Investigator Vance. I've heard stories of implied threats, promises of leniency for cooperation, or even manipulative techniques where photos were presented in a suggestive manner. These aren't just abstract legal terms. They represent the chilling reality of how memory can be distorted, how fear can lead innocent people to say what authorities want to hear, not what they actually saw. For Caleb, these fragile, coerced testimonies became the shackles that bound him. Thus began Caleb's agonizing descent into a legal purgatory. Trial after trial, appeal after appeal, a soul-crushing cycle that stretched for nearly 3 decades. Each time, a glimmer of hope would flicker to life as a new appeal was granted, only to be brutally extinguished by another conviction. 3 initial convictions, each overturned on procedural errors or constitutional violations, not on a declaration of his innocence. Can you imagine the mental and emotional toll, the constant fear of the gallows, the suffocating isolation of death row? Caleb spent years confined to a small cell, the walls closing in, the minutes stretching into eternities. The sound of distant footsteps could signal anything, a meal, a guard, or the unthinkable. He missed Maya's first steps, her first words, her graduation. He missed Sarah's touch, Brenda's comforting presence. This wasn't just about losing freedom. It was about losing time, losing life itself, piece by excruciating piece. For me, it underscored a profound truth. The justice system, while striving for truth, is fallible, susceptible to human biases, and at times to the relentless ambition of those within it. As Caleb endured this relentless torment, a question lingered: would anyone outside remember him, still believe in the innocence he so desperately clung to? Just as despair threatened to consume Caleb entirely, a flicker of light emerged from an unexpected corner. Meet Dr. Evelyn Reed, a tenacious independent investigative journalist. Evelyn wasn't chasing headlines, she was chasing truth. With a sharp mind and an even sharper moral compass, she had dedicated her life to shining a light on wrongful convictions. She stumbled upon Caleb's case almost by accident, a fleeting mention in an old legal brief, a quiet plea from his mother Brenda that had finally found its way to her desk. Immediately, the red flags began to wave: the glaring absence of physical evidence, the alarming number of overturned convictions, and those persistent, unsettling whispers about jury manipulation. Evelyn had seen this pattern before, a chilling blueprint of injustice. Evelyn embarked on a meticulous, almost obsessive, deep dive into Caleb's case. Her work wasn't just about reviewing documents, it was about unearthing human stories. She relentlessly sought out the original eyewitnesses, now years removed from the initial trauma and the pressure they had faced. Imagine the scene: Evelyn sitting across from a former witness in a quiet, out-of-the-way diner, the steam from their coffee swirling between them. The witness, visibly trembling slowly, cautiously, began to recount the threats, the subtle coercion, the terrifying feeling of being forced to identify a man they weren't truly sure of. This was not just testimony. It was a confession of fear, a testament to how easily vulnerable people can be manipulated by authority. But Evelyn's biggest breakthrough, the crucial plot twist that cracked the case wide open, came from an unexpected source. In a dusty box of archived court documents, a box almost certainly meant to be forgotten, Evelyn unearthed a series of internal memos from D.A. Stone's office. These weren't just standard notes. They were carefully worded directives, subtly guiding his legal team on how to challenge and dismiss potential black jurors based on thinly veiled non-racial pretexts. It was a chilling, undeniable blueprint of his discriminatory strategy, the smoking gun that exposed his unethical and illegal tactics. The air left Evelyn's lungs as she read them. It was a moment of profound, sickening revelation. Armed with this explosive new evidence, Evelyn knew she couldn't do it alone. The sheer weight of the systemic injustice demanded a united front. She reached out to attorney Liam O'Connell, a seasoned public defender with a reputation for tireless advocacy, and Professor Anya Sharma, a brilliant legal scholar and a fierce advocate for social justice. This was no ordinary legal team. It was a dream team bound by a shared belief in justice. I can picture them in a small, cluttered office, poring over the documents, Liam's brow furrowed in concentration, Anya's eyes blazing with determination. They meticulously built their new legal challenge, leveraging Evelyn's meticulous findings to dismantle the prosecution's flimsy case brick by agonizing brick. Their collaboration was a testament to the power of unity against a seemingly insurmountable foe. There were moments of frustration, of course, of facing the inherent resistance of a system reluctant to admit its flaws. But their dedication, fueled by Caleb's unimaginable suffering, propelled them forward. The tide, slowly but surely, was beginning to turn. They now held the pieces of a puzzle that could not only free Caleb, but also expose the very cracks in the foundation of justice. The stage was set for the ultimate showdown. The legal battle for Caleb Brooks culminated in the highest court of the land. The very mention of the Supreme Court sends shivers down the spine. It is the ultimate arbiter of justice, a place where legal theories clash and lives hang in the balance. The atmosphere in the courtroom was thick with tension, palpable enough to cut with a knife. Every breath felt held, every cough echoed. Caleb, pale but resolute, sat beside his legal team, his life, his past, present, and future distilled into this one defining moment. When the decision was finally announced, it wasn't a sweeping declaration of innocence, at least not directly. The Supreme Court overturned Caleb's most recent conviction based on the egregious procedural errors and constitutional violations surrounding the systematic exclusion of black jurors. This was the monumental plot twist in the legal saga, not just a technicality, but a forceful acknowledgement that the very foundation of his justice had been corrupted by racial bias. A collective gasp, then a quiet, profound wave of relief washed over Caleb's supporters. For me, this ruling was more than just a legal victory. It was a powerful, resounding message that even the most ingrained systemic flaws could eventually be challenged and exposed. The Supreme Court's ruling sent shockwaves through Greenwood, paving the way for a new chapter. Enter District Attorney Alex Nguyen, the newly elected DA. Unlike his predecessor, Stone, Nguyen was not driven by political ambition, but by a profound commitment to reform and true justice. He embodied a new guard, a refreshing willingness to confront uncomfortable truths. Faced with the Supreme Court's clear condemnation of his office's past tactics and Evelyn's irrefutable evidence, DA Nguyen made a courageous, integrity-driven decision. After careful, thorough review, he announced that his office would dismiss all charges against Caleb Brooks. It was a moment of stark contrast, Stone's relentless pursuit of conviction versus Nguyen's principled pursuit of justice. This decision, though long overdue, was a powerful testament to the fact that leadership, when driven by moral conviction, can indeed begin to mend the deepest wounds within the system. Then came the moment etched forever in the annals of human resilience. Caleb Brooks walking out of prison after 30 years. Imagine that first breath of truly free air. The harsh fluorescent lights of the penitentiary replaced by the blinding, unfiltered sunlight of a summer day. The clanging of cell doors replaced by the distant chirping of birds. His steps were tentative at first, almost disbelieving. Then he saw them. Brenda, his unwavering mother, her face etched with years of pain and unwavering hope, now transformed by pure, unadulterated joy. Sarah, his wife, her eyes overflowing with tears that spoke of 3 decades of silent agony, finally released. And then Maya, not the little girl he last remembered, but a grown woman, a stranger, and yet undeniably his daughter, rushing into his arms. It was a reunion both beautiful and heartbreaking, the embrace of a love that had defied time and steel bars. But freedom, Caleb would soon discover, wasn't just the absence of walls. It was stepping into a world that had raced forward without him, a dizzying landscape of technology culture and countless personal milestones he had agonizingly missed. The simple joy of being free was intertwined with the overwhelming challenge of understanding a world that had spun on indifferent to his unjust confinement. The initial days of freedom were a whirlwind for Caleb, a dizzying blur of overwhelming sensations. The world had transformed during his 3-decade absence. He marveled at smartphones, these tiny rectangles that held entire libraries and connected people across continents, a concept utterly alien to him. The internet, social media, self-driving cars, everything felt like science fiction. Simple tasks became complex hurdles. He had to learn how to navigate traffic that moved at a terrifying pace, how to use an ATM, even how to order food from a digital menu. There were moments of quiet, almost comical bewilderment, mixed with the profound, aching sadness for all the simple joys he had missed. But beneath the surface, Caleb possessed an indomitable spirit. With the unwavering support of Brenda Sarah and a slowly reconnecting Maya, he began the painstaking process of rebuilding his life, one small, deliberate step at a time. He found solace in the simple things, the taste of a home-cooked meal, the feel of soft grass beneath his feet, the quiet moments of connection with his loved ones. It was a testament to his extraordinary inner strength that he chose to focus on these newfound joys rather than allowing the bitterness of his past to consume him. What truly defined Caleb's liberation was his profound refusal to be defined by his trauma. He didn't seek revenge. He sought reform. He became a powerful, compelling voice for the wrongfully convicted, especially those from marginalized communities. Caleb often speaks at legal conferences, sharing his story with aspiring lawyers and seasoned judges, his voice resonating with an authenticity that no textbook could convey. My story, he would often say, his gaze direct and unwavering, is not unique. There are countless others, innocent men and women, trapped in the shadows of injustice, their voices unheard. He works closely with legal aid organizations, mentoring individuals navigating the complex appeals process, offering not just advice, but the most precious gift of all hope. His personal tragedy was transformed into a powerful, purpose-driven mission, a beacon for others. And Caleb's fight for accountability didn't stop there. He bravely initiated a federal lawsuit against Chief Investigator Vance and DA Stone. This wasn't about personal gain, about somehow putting a monetary value on 30 lost years. No amount of money could ever do that. This lawsuit was about setting a crucial precedent. It was about ensuring that those who abuse their power, who twist justice for personal or political gain, are held accountable. "Every dollar from this lawsuit isn't for me," Caleb stated in a powerful press conference. "It's a resounding declaration of truth. It's a message that such systemic failures must be exposed, that these injustices must never ever happen again." Caleb Brooks' story isn't just about one man's fight for freedom. It's a mirror reflecting the cracks in our system and a beacon of hope for what we as a society can become if we choose to fight relentlessly for what is right. His journey teaches us that even after the deepest wounds, healing is possible, and the human spirit, fueled by courage and a thirst for justice, remains indomitable. His echoes of justice will resonate for generations to come.